guys, what's going on? So it's JP's Plants Terrariums here. I've got a lot of different things I've been working on again. I haven't posted anything for a while. You guys know how it goes. Get busy doing stuff, and I honestly forgot to post. I've been meaning to make stuff and make videos for you guys, but there's just so many things going on right now. It's really difficult to be consistent with it. And in 2026, that's something I'm gonna hope to change. So right now I've got a lot of propagations and just smaller plants that I'm working on growing. So over here I have a bunch of prop containers. I got a couple trays. And here this is a big monstera stem that I've had. And it's actually rooted since I put it in here like 3-4 weeks ago. I don't think the roots are on this end. Yeah. Let's go over here. It's covered in damp sphagnum moss, and then underneath the sphagnum moss I have a very thin layer of airways mix that stays moist so that it kind of helps with the nutrients of the plant a little bit. But would you look at that? Look at those crazy roots on this thing right here. So again, this has been here for about 4 weeks now. I'm not expecting it to grow very quickly. It's a slow grower most times. Now over here we've got a bunch of propagations. These are taking longer. They are growing and have not all completely rooted yet. But most of these are something called Monstera, not Monstera, Epiprenum marble, or however you pronounce it. But I've got about roughly 60 pieces in here that have rooted, or at least started to root. You can't see them very well. Let's check this one out. Yeah. Again, what I'm saying is, you got a bunch of new growth on stuff. See that super bright white part? That was brand new on this. So I put this in here 3 weeks ago. I've got another big prop container right here. There's a bunch of miscellaneous plants. We'll go through those here in a little bit. And then up here we've got a bunch of random propagations that I've got. We got some Epiprenum yellow flames, Monstera ansani. And then down here, I've got a few miniature baby nerd plants that I took off of a mother plant and put in here to try to see if I can get them to root. And these containers are such a lifesaver whenever you're trying to propagate, but you don't have room in those seedling trays. These keep the moisture locked in a lot better than the little seed trays do. Over here, we've got a bunch more big nerd plants that I've cut off of mother plants. And a couple more ansani in here. And I think that's about it for this one. I can't remember. Got a red nerd plant. And then I think, where is it? It might be in the other container. Okay. Yeah. So, in this container right here, I've got a couple things I've been working on. We have a Philodendron melanochrysum variegated. Some other random things in here. I've got some Monstera lineatas. Mainly Monstera lineatas, a couple of Philodendron melanos, and then I've got a Moon Valley plant. Super tiny right now. Taking a while to get it to grow back like I need it to. But other than that, there's just a lot of other things I'm working on and trying to get to grow out. Over here, I can't remember the exact name of these, but I think it's called watermelon begonias. I've got like 2 of these seed trays filled up with it. And then I have a couple other containers that I've been trying to get these to propagate and root from. I'm not doing so well with the rooting, but surprisingly they have not dried out and died out on me, regardless of them not having any roots. Up here I've got some purple waffle plants, some Rex begonias. I can't remember the specific name of these ones. I've got an African violet. This was a lot bigger a couple months ago, and then I cut off all of the older leaves on it, and it started giving me some newer leaves on it that were a lot smaller. So that's just another cool thing you guys need to learn is older, bigger leaves, if you cut them off, the plant will start pushing out new growth and smaller growth. Up here we've got an Alocasia Regal Shield. We're going to be repotting this later, and I'm going to walk you guys through that, and we're going to look for some corms. Right here, the Calathea. Let's see what kind this is. Looks like it's just a common Calathea. I can't remember the specific name of that. Got an aloe vera plant here. A couple of Philodendron gloriosums. These are actually doing really well despite how they look. It's just a lot slower growth because I'm not feeding them as heavily as I usually would. Right here we have an Anthurium. It's not looking too hot right now. I'm still learning more about these. They are a little bit more difficult to kind of get the right requirements down for temperature, humidity, and watering, stuff like that. I've got a couple of Begonia maculatas. I was actually just given these by somebody that wanted to get rid of some of the plants they had. This is some sort of philodendron. I can't remember the specific name of that one. And then I've got another philodendron here. I'll have to figure out the name of this one later. Then I got a pothos plant right here and an Alocasia poly. And then right here, a Philodendron mayoi. I've just got this put up on a moss pole a couple weeks ago, so I don't think it's rooted into it yet. But this was a lot smaller than some of the plants that I would get, so I decided it would be a good idea to put it up on the moss pole. Right here, we have a Philodendron Atabapoense, however the heck you pronounce it. We're going to be putting this up on a moss pole here pretty soon. I've had it for about 2 months now. It's been doing really well with growth and giving me new leaves. And I'm actually hoping pretty soon to be able to propagate from it. And if you look at this right here, it's a bunch of little little bitty spots of dew or sap on it. I think that's called a honeydew. And then peep this new leaf right here. It actually looks a little bit pink. I don't know. We'll find out when it opens up. Down here I've got the Monstera Thigh Constellation. This has not been giving me any new growth whatsoever, no matter what I do. I've repotted it about 3 weeks ago. Into the same pot it was in, I cleaned off all the roots and just kind of went through the roots and cut all the bad stuff off. Now, I think it is trying to put out new growth. You can see that little spot right there that looks like it's a new leaf. It looks like it's dried out. And it's the same thing on this one back here. This one doesn't look like it's dried out. It might actually produce a new leaf. But I'm going to do a separate video on that for you guys so you can kind of see what I do with it and see what happens. And we'll kind of do like a weekly update on that. This right here is a Philodendron Burl Marx. It is not the Monstera Burl Marx. Do not get that mixed up. Completely different things. I got this from the same person that gave me some of the smaller plants. I made this moss pole for them, and it's been doing well, it looks like. Aside from dropping some leaves, I think that just might just be dry, not enough humidity on it. We'll figure that out later, though. Right here, I've got my Monstera Escalado. This has been doing amazing. I've got it on one of my custom-made moss poles underneath this spider grow light right here, and it's actually attached to the moss pole I can't really see it on the right now, and I can't show it to you guys because of where it's at, like on the back down here. But it's been doing really well. It put out a runner stem, so I've got that attached to a flat moss pole, and it's been rooting into it. I water it every couple of days to kind of keep that moisture and make those roots want to attach. And then over here, I've got 4 Monstera deliciosa plants. 3 of them are smaller and older plants, and they're growing on, I've got them attached to moss poles, or I'm trying to attach them to the moss poles. They each have new leaves. This one might not yet. This one does back here. And this right here was about as big as the Escalado, but the leaves were starting to go bad on it for some reason, so I chopped it all off. And now I just got it attached to this moss pole to see if I can get it to grow back out. Other than that, the only thing I can tell you guys is I've got some new stuff I'm working on. I've got my shelf and container set up right here. I've got a pressure cooker for sterilizing stuff for when I start tissue culture here next week. And then I've got all my little medias and hormone stuff I need for the tissue culture. We're gonna start off with a couple of small things and just go from there and see what happens. Down here I've got a couple more propagations. I've got some aluminum plants. These are actually doing amazing in these things right here. It's just little deli containers with the humidity dome that I ordered. Then down here I've got a Monstera Escalado propagation. It's been in here for about a month, I think. A month and a half now. And I don't know if y'all can see that, but it's got a leaf shoot. It's not really producing a whole lot of roots yet, but you can see those 2 tap roots right off the side of that right there. That's what's bringing up all that nutrients and moisture for that plant that it needs. So we're going to keep this in here for quite some time, and then once it looks like it's big enough to put into a small pot, we'll go ahead and do that. The next thing I'm going to do is we're going to walk through some of the propagations that I've got, and we're just going to go ahead and take a look at everything and see what needs done with some of them, see if they need put in the new pot or if they just need put back in the container. Alright, we got all those pulled out of the tray. I see I can got quite a few good ones here. A lot of shoots. Just that little white nub you see. And then that little white string is just the root. I'm not gonna bother counting these right now, but looks like there's about 20 of them. We ended up getting some bad ones. They still had some shoot nubs on them, but they're just, the end of them are so rotted away that it's just gonna make the plant die out before it has a chance to grow enough to be able to put in the new pot to grow out more. So we're going to wring out the sphagnum moss really well so it's just like lightly damp, and then we're gonna put it back in that tray and put them back in there and just leave it alone and see what happens. So I decided instead of using that seedling tray again, we're going to do some of these miniature pots. That way it's easier to keep focusing on specific plants if I need to. I counted them up and I have about 30 of them. So we're going to take these pots out and organize them so I can get them all on here. So I decided instead of sphagnum moss, I'm going to use some coco coir and perlite in equal parts. That way it has good aeration and drainage, but still holds good moisture. Because the sphagnum moss ended up getting too wet and soggy, didn't dry out enough to be able to let the roots produce correctly. And sometimes them being super wet makes it stunt that growth a little bit. those all repotted in water, we're gonna move them over to this dry tray so that the soil doesn't stay too wet and rot out the plant. I honestly can't remember if this is the top or the bottom of it. I'm assuming this is the top because down here is where the old taproot was. So we're going to clean this off a little bit, and oh look, got a new root shoots coming out in a couple spots, and it's got a new one right here. So we're gonna clean this whole stem off. I'm gonna do that off camera, and then we're gonna come back and repot this onto the tray. We're gonna get rid of the sphagnum moss and just put that cocoa coir and perlite mix on there, see if that changes anything. Alright, so I'm back, and we're gonna take all that sphagnum moss out of here. I'll set this up here for a minute. I'm gonna take all that sphagnum moss off, or at least as much as I can. Not sure if you guys can tell, but right here where the snub is, it looks like that's gonna be a new stem coming out of it. There's quite a few of them on here. Looks like there's gonna be either new aerial roots or new leaf shoots coming out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I count 5 right now. There'll probably be a few more that I missed. Like 6 right here. So we're gonna cut this old aerial root off of here. With these garden shoots right here. That's not gonna grow anything else out. So we're also gonna get rid of this one. Well, no, this one's got a new root growing out of it. So we'll leave that one alone. And then we're just gonna put this back on this tray with those roots facing. We're gonna try to make this a little bit more up and down like this. We're gonna separate this a little bit so those roots have a little bit more depth. And then we're just going to take that cocoa coir and perlite mix and just build up around the edges of the stem on where it's touching the soil. Check on these other prop bins. I'm at 2 more days, just because I want to give them enough time to acclimate to being in here. They've only been here about a week, but sometimes it's longer for them to actually, I guess the word is acclimate to the conditions they're in. That way they start producing the roots so that they continue to grow. We are, however, going to look at the plants that I have in this prop bin real quick and see if anything needs trimmed down or taken out and thrown away. I've got some Monstera pinnatispartum in here. That's what this main one is. It's looking really good. I can't remember what this was. This one is a Raphidophora Dragon's Tail or something like that. I'll have to get the name for you guys on that later. It's getting an upper epi yellow flame. It looks like that's not gonna make it, unfortunately. There's a couple of them in here. We'll check through them here in a second on with a wider view so you guys can see what I'm doing. This Monstera pinnatispartum is actually doing really well. It's got some shiny new leaves. It's got like 4 different new growth points in it, and that is ridiculous. And then it's got this long main runner stem coming out of here. We'll be able to actually propagate from that again here in a couple more weeks once it gets a little bit larger. But for now, we also have a couple of Syngoniums. And that's about it for this prop bin. But I'm going to take them out and watch you guys see them a little bit more. So this little pot of Syngonium mixes did not make it at all. There's mold and fungal growth on all of them, and then the other 3 are just rotted out. They're no good to use, so we're just gonna get rid of those. Some of these Monsteras here are looking pretty good for the most part. A little bit of yellowing on the leaf. This one's pretty, looks like it was dried out first and then came back. I don't know. That pool on is pretty good though. I could tell there's roots on there. This one definitely has roots, just no new leaves on it yet. The Dragon's Tail, I'm not sure about that one. It looks like it's got some new root sheet on it. So we're gonna leave that in here. Let's go ahead and check the other one. Oh, that leaf fell off already. That's not a good sign. It's hard to pull out of here. This might have actually started to put some roots. No new roots on it yet. But we'll keep it in here a little longer and see what happens. Now we're gonna check the main chunk right here. This was a Dragon's Tail as well. It just didn't have any leaves on it because I cut them off or they were bad. So for this one, it does not look like. It looks like there's one tiny bitty root piece right here that's trying to come out. There might be a couple more. Yeah, there's a couple more in different spots. There's really tiny little white dots. Those are little bitty root shoots getting ready to come out of this plant. So that means this one's doing well. We're gonna keep this in here as well and just let that continue to grow. Now let's check this little epi right here. This broke that leaf off. That'll probably help it grow better anyway. I'm not seeing any new shoots. Wait, there she is. That little white dot you guys see right here on the edge of this, that's gonna be a new shoot and a new root. We're gonna leave that in there, but we're gonna leave it out for a little bit for that sphagnum moss to dry out. This epi's probably done for. So we can find it. Way down in there. Okay, so that actually has a new shoot coming up on it and a new root right there. So we're gonna leave her in there and do the same thing with letting it dry out a little bit so it doesn't get too wet. Got 2 more epis coming out. These don't seem to be doing too bad. I'll be impressed with if there's new roots on them. Not quite yet, but it hasn't died or rotted out yet either, so that's a good sign. Let's check this epi out right here. Not really noticing anything different with this one either. Little bitty root shoot right here that you guys can't see too well. A little white nub, that's a little root shoot. Gonna leave this out. And the last epi that we got to check on. Okay, that's actually the old root that was on here. This was off of the whole vine that I recut and propagated from. So it's got a couple root shoots coming out right here. Nothing too crazy, but we're gonna leave this out as well and just let it dry out a little bit so that the roots have a chance to breathe. So these other monster pinatas right here, this one has not rooted yet. This one I believe has rooted, and it looks like it right there. I'm not gonna take this one out because I don't want to just damage the roots much, but there's a little white spot right here. That's the root, and I could see them in a couple of different spots already, so that's a good sign for this one. I'm not seeing much for this one just yet. I believe this is rooted though. It's got a pretty good pull on it. Oh yeah, look at those roots on that. And this is a brand new cutting too. We'll repot that here in a moment. I'm not sure about this one, but we're gonna check on it and see what it looks like. Oh, look at that crazy root system there. This is a brand new propagation as well. This is only about 2 months old, so these are doing really well. We'll repot that here in a minute too. This one's a little bit yellowed out, losing color, so this one may not have rooted. Yeah, this hasn't rooted yet, so I'm not sure if we're gonna keep this one. I think those are the old roots on there, so we might throw that one out. I believe this one has rooted, it's just the leaf dried out too much. No, I'm not seeing any signs of root growth on her. And this one I know is rooted because it only had this stem when I started, and then it popped out this new leaf down here. Let's check on that root system. Okay, you can see all those roots hanging out right there. That is insane. Look at all those roots on there. Well, that's the end of that. So we're gonna repot these up off camera, and then I'll show you guys the end result and what I'm gonna do with those next. Hey guys, what's going on? So it's been about a week since the last part of this video, and where I was going through the propagation stuff that I had. And I gotta tell you guys, everything has been doing really well. Everything has rooted to my knowledge, and let's go ahead and check these out. So, as you can see here, these are all still doing pretty well. There was a few of the Adansonas that I had where the leaves were getting super yellow and starting to turn black on the edges, so I cut those off. But I know that the stems that they were on are still doing really well. What I did was in that last video was I wrung out the sphagnum moss on the top part, and I put the cutting back in there where all the sphagnum moss at the bottom of the pot was still wet, so that would train the root to grow down instead of staying in one area at the top. So a lot of this stuff is still doing really well. Some of the stuff I had, like the Laniatas and the Philodendron Milanos, I don't know if that has rooted actually. We're gonna have to check that here in a minute. But everything has rooted. You can see right here, this nerve plant. Those are roots that you can see right there. Let's see. Let's check this Adensana right here real quick. Let's just show you guys. Look at those roots on that. And I bet you anything, almost all of these are gonna look like that. But we're not gonna go look through all of these right now because that's just way too much work. These moss things that I got are looking pretty good. This Moon Valley plant's looking really good. I love the texture on this. Got some aloe cages that I'm working on over here. This dragon's tail, I'm pretty sure it's rooted. I just haven't really looked at it. I don't feel like looking at it right now. We'll do another update on that in another video. Over here, I've got some baby Rhaphidophora tetraspermas, or another species that's known as mini monstera. And then I've got 3 baby Philodendron pink princesses. Up here, I got some Rex begonias. I can't remember the exact name of these ones. They're really fuzzy. Down here, I've got a lot of the prop cups that I had, like the aluminum plant. They're doing really, really well on these. See if I can find one. Look at this. Look at how crazy those roots are on these things. These have been in these cups for like a month now, or a month and a half at most. And I'm keeping them in there because they like the higher humidity, and that helps them grow a lot faster. Over here we have those trays of those vine plants that I told you guys about in the last part of this video, and everything has rooted. You can see some roots right there. So these have been doing really well, so pretty soon we're going to be putting these back into a hanging basket with the same stuff that they're in right now, so that they don't dry out on me and die again, because that's what happened the first time. I've got these 2 trays, they're doing really, really well. And then I've got a couple of these little Denny containers down here. Right here I've got a Rex begonia. I'm not gonna open this one for right now. Just gonna let you guys know what's going on. And then in these cups right here, I've got some ferns that I got from a local park that I like going to and collecting moss. And you can't see it right now, but very well. But all these containers back here are moss cups, including these big ones back here. And I like collecting moss, and that's something I'm gonna start having available soon for people that want to grow their own terrarium and stuff like that. And they'll have that on hand. Over here, I've got a new Philodendron Malloy. These leaves are a lot bigger than I thought they were. I've got this potted up in a self-watering pot, and right now I just have it hooked up or attached to a garden stake, and I wrapped it with wicking rope so that the water travels up and keeps it wet. That's something I plan to do with my moss poles that I start making here soon. This Monstera Esqueleto is doing really, really well. Despite how dry the moss pole is, it's really difficult to keep them wet and watered long enough for anything to attach to them. But I am pretty sure that the roots down there at the base have attached to it down there. I've also got a runner on this, and it's actually got roots trying to attach, but again, it's drying out so fast that they're not attaching to it completely. This Philodendron Burl Marx is doing pretty good. It has stopped dropping leaves and started giving me new growth on both stems. That one and that one right there. This Monstera Esqueleto, it is still not doing the best. Yeah, see how limp that is right there. So we're gonna do this in another video this week, and I'm gonna cut the leaves off the stem, so we can try and get that to start growing out again. Over here, I've got a big mother plant for the Philodendron Pink Princess. And then up here, I've got a bunch of pink nerd plants, some pothos, some purple waffle plants, and a bunch of mini monsteras. This anthurium is doing well. No, that was the Philodendron. The Philodendron is doing pretty good. The anthurium is actually doing really well. It's got a flower growing on it. And then the Philodendron gloriosum is actually starting to do a little bit better since I last showed them. And then I've got this big Philodendron on a moss pole finally. I just attached it 2 days ago, so obviously nothing has actually rooted into the pole. But I do have it strapped down pretty good with that Velcro tape, and that stuff is absolutely my favorite thing to use. So over here I have this Allocator Regal Shield. Here in another video I'm gonna be going through this and showing you guys some pest control, because I don't know if y'all can see that, but those white specks are mealybugs, and we do not want that. That'll start spreading to all my other plants and sucking the moisture out of them. And then we're also going to do a repot, and I'm looking for some corms on this one. And then over here I've got my Monstera Deliciosus. So these 3 smaller ones are actually doing very well. They've all got new growth on them. Maybe. This one is a new leaf that just opened up, I believe. This one right here. And then over here on this big stem, I've got some new aerial roots popping out right there. And right there on the back of that. So we're gonna start watering that more frequently and keep a humidifier on it so that can actually start to attach better. And then I've got a grow light on it. That's a new grow light that I got for these, and it's actually doing pretty good. So it's helping them start to grow up straight more and grow a little bit faster. And then I also did the same thing over here with the Philodendron. I hung a grow light right up above it where that stem is going out the new leaves, so that helps those look up to it a little bit faster, and they'll start growing a little bit faster for that light. Another thing I forgot to show you guys is something that's doing really well right now. This is a Monstera stem. We're gonna dig through this real quick and look at these roots and check out how this is doing. Oh wow. Look at those roots on that. See the white tips hanging out there? Those are all roots. And then even more on the other end of this. That is insane. Wow, look at those. This has been doing amazing in this after all. So this was chunky airwood mix in here that I kept wet and sprayed down with the Hormex rooting hormone. And then originally I had it in sphagnum moss to kind of keep it moist, but that just wasn't helping it much. So then I put it in coco coir and perlite only, and that is what made these roots pop out like this. So I'm gonna go clean this off and we'll get right back to it. Alright, we're back. And look at these roots on this. There's one right here in the middle node. There's some down here. This was the original bottom and base of this plant, I think. No, this must have been the top. I can't remember. Some pretty decent roots there. And now for the big set of roots. Look at all of those roots on there. That's awesome. That's the Monstera Deliciosa. And then down here is the other stuff that I had propagated and put in pots. And right now, from the looks of it, I don't see anything new on top besides this. This has a really nice root growing down to the soil from the middle of that stem, which is kind of weird. But hey, it's growing, right? So we're gonna check this back here real quick. Okay, I can tell you now, this is definitely rooted in some way. We'll repot that in a minute off camera. Let's check this out right here. It's definitely rooted. So I'm assuming all of these have probably rooted, but not by very much. So we're gonna water these again off camera and leave them set for another week and try to raise up the humidity and heat a little bit on them. That way it helps the roots form a little bit more. So that's it for this video. I'm gonna do some B-roll of me watering stuff and looking through some things and seeing if everything is trimmed. And if you guys like this video, please be sure to subscribe, like the video, and click that bell icon so you don't miss anything on my new videos. And I will see you guys on the next one. Bye.